What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. For a while now, we've talked about Sega as being a company that might be the target of a large acquisition from a Microsoft or a Sony or something, but it appears Sega is actually doing their own acquisition that's $1 billion. We'll go over that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom and how the leaks just continue, which does bring up some interesting concerns as we get closer to release. And we'll also be discussing Lawbreakers. Bet you didn't think you'd hear about that one. Well, apparently we could actually see it make a return. If you guys enjoy this video, make sure you hit that like button. Helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe it down below. And we're going to start today with a new Sega Dreamcast that you can pick up starting now as we head towards the holiday season at the end of the year. That's right. And this one you can hang from your tree. This you can see posted up over on Hallmark. And I saw some people, of course, trolling online about there being a new Dreamcast mini console. And here it is. It even lights up, makes noises and all this. And it's at a low price of $23. I'm going to be buying this, by the way, because why not put it up on the tree? But yeah, that was an unfortunate thing to see floating around on Twitter, only to realize that it wasn't the Sega mini console I was hoping for. But I mean, it's fun. It lights up there where the VMU would go. It makes an entire like song and stuff. So fun, I guess. But I'm hoping that Sega has plans for a different kind of Sega Dreamcast Mini, maybe for the holidays, or who knows, maybe next year, we'll see. Also, I've been looking at 2023 as we're getting looks at some of these big time releases like Zelda and Final Fantasy 16 and kind of thinking, wow, this is a big year so far. And there's one other game that's been announced, but kind of flying under the radar a bit. I don't know if people have forgotten about it or whatever, but Armored Core 6 still has to release. In fact, actually got rated the other day. Take a look at this. This posted up by Gamatsu over on Twitter. Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon has been rated in Korea. A reminder that it's due out this year again. I feel like people saw it, got excited, and it's kind of just flown under the radar there. And in fact, we have some key art that was spotted on the Xbox store, as you could do a couple of tricks and kind of like pre-install stuff and then see what the key art is. And all right, this looks really good. So I am very excited for Armored Core 6 just to see what FromSoft can take, well, since the last Armored Core, but a lot of things they've learned doing like the Souls type games. And they said it's not going to be a Souls-like experience, but there's still a lot of stuff they can take when it comes from workflow and just overall development and budget, since, well, they're not exactly hurting for money right now. And I'm hoping that translates into a really awesome and epic experience with Armored Core 6. So look out for that. Something tells me maybe we'll see an announcement over the summer. A lot of events coming up soon. Oh, and we've talked about the madness around the Super Mario movie when it comes to the box office and the revenue that's just pouring in for Nintendo and Illumination. Well, that continues on, because you can see this posted up by The Hollywood Reporter. Super Mario Bros. Scores crazy great. As $87 million in second week. It's now hit $670 million globally. Now, obviously, eyes right now are on that $1 billion mark, and that would be like the best movie in terms of box office revenue that Illumination has released. But clearly for Nintendo, they could be looking towards some other film adaptations for some of their intellectual properties, or maybe they start to look at different series through streaming apps, whether it's on Amazon, Netflix, or I don't know, HBO. There's a lot of suitors out there right now who I'm sure are just banging down Nintendo's door, hoping to get one of these intellectual properties that clearly translating over very, very well to the big screen. So look out for, at this point, the Super Mario movie maybe to cross $1 billion in the next 2 weeks. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Sega and a pretty sizable acquisition for them. We see some of the other acquisitions that happen. Clearly, Microsoft for Activision Blizzard, that's on a whole other level of near $70 billion. But even when they purchased something like ZeniMax and Bethesda at $7.5 billion, that's a pretty large amount. And then even Sony with Bungie, that being over $3 billion. So Sega, being smaller than both of those, coming in up with $1 billion seems like it'd be very difficult. But apparently they're going to be doing that. Now, this is a report that got out there a bit early, of course, ahead of Sega's announcement from the Wall Street Journal. But we can see this posted up by Reuters saying Sega nears deal to acquire Angry Birds maker Rovio for $1 billion. The Wall Street Journal reports. This is strange, right? Even reading that headline, I'm like, why? Now, if you're unfamiliar, Rovio is the company behind Angry Birds. All right, and we've talked about Rovio because remember that tweet that they had where they were pulling down classic Angry Birds that didn't have microtransactions, that was sold for like $1 because not enough people were buying the new Angry Birds with the microtransactions, or I guess downloading the free-to-play one and buying the microtransactions. That's clearly where a lot of the money comes in, right, for these mobile games that are all free-to-play. And it's interesting to see Sega be this aggressive over Rovio. Now, we do know a lot of companies are kind of shopping themselves around right now. Again, Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard was Activision Blizzard going to Microsoft. So Sega maybe sizing up Rovio here as they're shopping around. To them, might be worth it. And I know it's going to sound weird to a lot of people out there because it's a mobile game. It's Angry Birds. But remember, Angry Birds has transcended technically just games. It's in other forms of media. There's movies and stuff, TV shows. There's a lot of things around just this Angry Birds intellectual property. But also Rovio in general seems to know what they are doing for the most part when it comes to mobile games. Not their best moment recently with that entire situation around Angry Birds Classic, but in terms of putting these games together and then monetizing them beyond that initial download or purchase, well, they've proven that they can do that and rake in a ton of money. And right now, mobile continues to explode. So Sega thinking, well, we have some money we can apparently spend, which $1 billion, to my understanding, is just under like a quarter of their market cap. So still a lot of information in terms of details around how they're doing this, financing, stock options, cash, whatever that mixture is there. But if they can pick up Rovio, as this report is alluding to and talking about, then maybe they look elsewhere with some of their intellectual properties outside of just Angry Birds. Obviously, Sega has a lot of stuff they can do, and then work to spin off some of these games as mobile titles. Or they've talked about these super games, right? These big projects they're doing that clearly are going to really be live service titles, let's be real. But if Rovio has that kind of experience to monetize and really update these games, you could also see some of their talents from that side kind of blend in to some of the super games they're doing as live services. Either way, certainly a surprising move from Sega, and if this deal does get done, apparently as soon as this week, we would have some sort of announcement from Sega and maybe reasoning as to why they were so aggressive and looked to spend that kind of money on Rovio and Angry Birds. So we'll just keep an eye out for the official announcement, provided this is all going through. Next up, let's talk about The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. After that final trailer, hype for this game is through the roof online. That trailer from Nintendo has been trending #1 for days now. Millions and millions of views have racked up in no time flat. And now we're seeing more leaks happen, which is interesting, and we're going to come back to that one. However, the thing that's leaked out isn't like the game or necessarily spoilers. It's an advert, and it was very strange because it popped up pretty soon after that final trailer went live, because like hours later, and just showed up on Reddit, and it was mentioned as an unfinished advert. However, people were zooming in, of course, doing a lot of analysis on it, and they found a couple of scenes and small details that weren't necessarily shown before. Again, this is an advert that will eventually be shown by Nintendo to advertise the game, so it's not necessarily spoilers or anything, considering it's probably just going to play during a commercial break or something, or even just in front of a YouTube video or something there. However, we can go over some of the things that were spotted here, which includes that 3-headed dragon. Apparently it's a flame Gleeok. Maybe there'll be other dragons of different elements that you'll see there. The underground area is a Z coordinate of -470. So as kind of speculated on that there would be some pretty serious underground exploration, well, it looks like you're going to be going pretty far below the surface there. I mean, over on Reddit, people were doing things like counting out the number of hearts in one row to see if maybe the overall maximum hearts you can get here versus Breath of the Wild has increased. And there is now speculation that it could be up to 40 hearts that you can get as Link, which of course brings in the question around number of shrines or upgrade paths or any of that. But the thing that I really looked at and thought of immediately was, wow, stuff keeps leaking for Tears of the Kingdom. I mean, really, it's been a lot of stuff getting out there. Remember, the system leaked out from the factory, and then it leaked out again when Wood apparently got it and unboxed the whole thing right after it was announced. The art book got out there and just started showing off all these different things. Now just a random advert. I don't really know what's going on over at Nintendo, but they have become increasingly aggressive around The Legend of Zelda on places like YouTube, especially with takedown notices, and even going off to GameStop to pressure them to fire the person who originally took a picture of the SKU that would become The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom system. I did a video of that on the second channel. Check that out if you're curious there. But it does seem like Nintendo has a bit of a leak problem here with this game, and we are getting closer and closer to that eventual release, which makes me think it's going to culminate in the game leaking out about a week early. All right, now, it's going to be tough because obviously this is a game that seems to be cramming more story in here, and there's still a lot of things we don't know. And this is a game that I would legitimately like to go into knowing, I guess, less than necessary at this point, because I'm sold on it. That final trailer really put it over the top, and I'm just good to coast until we get to that release. Although I will be curious, like many of you, I'm sure, to see where reviews fall and if it can score the same or even better than Breath of the Wild on places like Metacritic, and to get early spoiler-free impressions, hopefully. But as soon as this game leaks out online and it gets dumped to the internet, there's going to be 20 to 30 million Switch systems that can download and play this early, and I'm telling you, people online love to spoil stuff, so get ready for the most anticipated title, I would say, of the year, for them to probably make their best attempt. So we'll see as we get closer, but keep in mind, I will give you a warning if this game finds its way out online at all. Next up, let's talk about a story that's a bit out of left field. Do you remember the game Lawbreakers? Came out 2017. I think there was a beta in 2016 because I did play it in beta and then kind of moved along from it. Not that the game was bad, but it wasn't as memorable, really. It felt kind of generic. However, it did launch in 2017 on the PS4 and on PC, and then about a year later in 2018, it was just shut down and delisted, and that was sort of it. But it looks like something is going on with this game once again, and in order to find that out, we go to Cliffy B, who you can see over on Twitter. Says, just got a text from my lawyer about Lawbreakers. Stay tuned. Now, if you're unaware, Cliffy B, or Cliff Bleszinski, was the head of Boss Key, which was the studio that created Lawbreakers. Then, after Lawbreakers didn't work out, they went on to make, what was it, Radical Heights, which I think that's a game they want to forget about because it was an obvious cash in on a shoestring budget to try to make a Fortnite, and it wasn't great. Anyway, the follow-up tweet, though, is interesting. Apparently, people are sniffing around seeing who has the rights to it, and my legal team is like, they're just pointing at each other there. So this has now spurned on a bunch of opinion pieces and questions online, like from Pure Xbox, could PS4 exclusive Lawbreakers finally come to Xbox? Creator Cliffy B provides an update. That's an interesting way to frame it, I guess. The question would be, is Lawbreakers coming back in some case? And it's interesting that people would be sniffing around the rights for it unless there's, I'd say there might be another live service game that is going to use that in some way, that phrase Lawbreakers, and they have to figure out, is this trademarked? Is it not? Do we have to pay out some form of money to buy this from, I guess, Cliff Bleszinski, or apparently whoever owns this, since they're all pointing at each other there. The other side could be maybe, I don't know, a company wants to come by and say, can we revive this game? Is that possible? Because we've seen it. Many companies are trying to throw their hat in the ring for these live service, even hero shooter experiences like an Overwatch. And that's kind of what Lawbreakers was, right? It's like this hero shooter arena style game that played into the idea of having different roles based on characters and these sorts of things. And I think the biggest problem, again, wasn't necessarily the gameplay, as people seemed to find with it. It just didn't really have much of an identity, I guess is the best way I could describe its shortcomings. However, I didn't necessarily give it as much time as I guess I could have, playing in most of the beta and then moving on. So I am curious, people who really spent time with Lawbreakers, what was your opinion and thoughts on it back when it came out, up to it getting shut down? Things you liked, things you didn't? Because I am genuinely wondering if in a time right now where it feels like a lot of the multiplayer games we are playing are very much the same, or at least samey with these battle royale things where we're always just waiting for a new season or some big update to come to that same game we've been playing for what feels like years now. If something like a Lawbreakers coming back, maybe making some alterations, would actually have an impact and maybe be able to survive more than a year. Let me know. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about the Xbox Series dashboard. Specifically, there is a dashboard that's been in like the Xbox Insider testing for a little while now, and the biggest thing that people have realized is that they keep filling up the real estate on your screen with these little tiles and squares to the point where you can't see your background, which is a shame because you can actually customize the background with dynamically moving images and things. It's pretty cool to see that, but you can't really see it. And now it appears that Microsoft has heard everyone and they're kind of reverting back and maybe spending some time thinking about how they can clear up some of that space. We can see this posted up. This over on Pure Xbox, or the Xbox Insiders program, with their message saying, "We heard from you that the changes at the top of home did not leave enough space for you to enjoy your backgrounds and that it felt crowded. We're working to balance the experience, accessibility function, and the needs of our community and bring you a great and refreshed home experience." Now, if you're curious, I did look back. There were a couple of videos on Twitter of people showcasing it a bit better. Jez Gordon, as an example. Jez Gordon kind of just scrolling through all the tiles, and it's quite busy. Like, you definitely can't see that background very well. There's kind of like slivers of space between the different tiles. And people have been coming up with their own concepts as to what they would like to see. All of them just shrink down the icons, so you can just see the background. Like, Souls Ninja has done a few of them where you can see it's just a clean row of tiles there at the bottom and a lot of just empty space. And that's, I think, a good way to go about it if you do want to show off that background, obviously, but also the sense of not being bombarded by a bunch of stuff. And it does feel like at times you turn on that Xbox Series and they're just throwing ads and commercials basically in front of you. And then, oh, yeah, there's your game right up there, just on the left side. And it's just, it feels like there's just too much going on. I would not mind a more minimalistic look. And clearly when you go on their store, they'll just hit you with all these ads. But when you're at your home menu, I feel like that should just be your menu to customize and not have to worry about advertisements and pins and all these little things they're trying to throw at you. So I wouldn't mind if they work to scale things back because some of those backgrounds are really cool. I like the original Xbox one where it has like the reactor core in the middle. Though that's kind of cool, or even the Halo Infinite one, obviously for Halo fans, having Master Chief in the background, they have like little things falling out of the sky, that slight animation. It's just really cool. So I hope Xbox can hear the fans for once rather than go the opposite direction, which is what they've done with this dashboard where they were trying to fill it up with a bunch of tiles and other nonsense. So we'll see what they come up with though going forward. Good to hear though they're at least working on it after hearing all the complaints. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're going to take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked, did you play Lawbreakers before it went offline in 2018? 4% said yes. That sounds about right. 35% said no. And then 61% say, what's Lawbreakers? You know, that doesn't surprise me very much. And the interesting thing about that is, even though it was 2017 and 2018, it doesn't feel that long ago. 5 years ago, technically, from when it shut down. So that's enough time. And it didn't exactly sell well, clearly, or have a large player base, that they could almost reboot it, use that name, and people might check it out, not even knowing that it had released prior, or at least have enough knowledge to keep them away from it if it looks good. So while I do kind of think this is more or less a company, developer, a publisher who wants to use the phrase Lawbreakers somewhere in probably one of these live service games through an update, it's an interesting idea that maybe a company shows up wanting to fund it and see what they have up their sleeve if, say, there was a Lawbreakers 2.0. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from the N Magnus, says, not bad for a Zelda DLC that will give me 300 plus hours of gameplay, right? This has been ongoing for, I feel like this is kind of recent with different games that are sequels. Horizon Forbidden West definitely got it. God of War Ragnarok got it. Splatoon 3 got it. And Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is kind of like the latest victim for this. And it's, if they take the core foundation of that first game and then work to build on top of it, even if it's like reused animations, which was, that's Twitter's favorite thing, is show the reused animations, which is like, it was already good in the first place. They're using it again. It's definitely DLC and they're just reselling it. Does not look like that's the case here for Tears of the Kingdom after that final trailer. And again, there's still a lot of stuff we have to discover, but something tells me this game is going to be absolutely massive, and I'm really looking forward to jumping into the game May 12th. But yeah, I think the DLC conversation is, I think that's pretty much over. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. We're Sega's surprising move, where they're looking to buy Rovio for $1 billion. What do you think the strategy is there? And then also this leaked advert for the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. A small thing technically, but do you think this could be maybe building up to a much larger leak as we get closer to release? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.